Professor Salman Rawaf. His topic about available vaccine, validity, effectiveness, side effect, WHO registration. Can you start, please?
شكرا جزيلا سيدي الفاضل. Let me share with you the slide if I can find it. I think these are, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Let us started almost at the beginning.
No problem.
Sorry about that. Okay, I think kindly Dr. Khalid covered a lot of the main points, and it was a great opportunity to listen to him and colleagues. I think linking the vaccine to the school is difficult at this minute, but I'll come to this point in a second. While we have the vaccine, I'm sorry, I've been linking to a couple of conferences at the same time. Yeah. So Dr. Khalid already covered the vaccine status and availability. I will focus mainly on the logistic and how to achieve the immunity in the target population, because really this is a complex issue now. And in the target population, which is a very important population, the children, I will mention what is the status of the art today, and especially the first country in Europe, in the world actually, will start the vaccine tomorrow, is United Kingdom. And also we have Indonesia will start the Chinese vaccine, although we didn't see any published result yet, within the next few days. And I'll talk about COVAX a bit and how to return to school. I think this is already mentioned. We have 8 technologies. They are different than each other, you know, but all is about retaking the protein to the body to create 2 types of immunity, generating sufficient T cell and also B cell. I think some of it already mentioned. These are the 8 technologies which is mentioned, and there is possibly the RNP, technology, which is still nothing is published about that. And of course, the sort of passive immunity, the antibody administration, whether it is through plasma or the monoclonal antibodies, which is Regeneron, for example, in the United States, which you are familiar with it. So what we're talking here about the active immunity, the passive immunity now, some of it already licensed, and it does work. So we need to remember that. And the status of the vaccine, we have these 4 now. They are actually almost within the hand of the regulator. One of these passed the first approval, which is emergency approval, and that is the one which is the German one, the BioNTech Pfizer. As I said, Britain will be the first one to the Russian one. Sputnik, actually, we don't have much information, although a clinical trial started in Hungary, Budapest, last week. Why 2 doses? Because a lot of people ask me about this question. Why do we need 2 doses? And this is the problem with the new technology. Like many other vaccine, 1 dose will generate sufficient immunity, and you may need a booster after 5 years, 6 years, whatever, depend on the type of vaccine. Once initial infection happens, this is where we give the first dose. It really, the body generates what's called the primary immunity responses, which is mainly some sort of T cell. But the most important thing, which is the second hump here, when you have secondary immunity response. And this will be sufficient enough, for the body to remember that virus. And therefore, most of these technologies, with the exception of the attenuated or dead viruses, generating sufficient memory response from the B and the T cell to kill the virus once it's entered the body. By the way, this is new technology, I think Khalid did refer to it, is not tested long enough to say it is safe. So the issue of safety, apart from the clinical trial in the long term, it's in question, while the issue of safety in the short term, 2 or 3 months, it's there. But we cannot say it's a safe vaccine for the next 5 or 10 years. But time will tell. I'll come to this point. How it works, I think both Seema and colleagues mentioned it already. I don't need to go through it again. But the ending point is, you see, is the generation of the protein. You could do it immediately through the passive immunity, or you could really do it through DNA, which is a longer chain, or the RNA is a shorter chain. Let me look at the logistic, and this is the nightmare which is we have today, especially with the vaccine which require minus 70, minus 80. And I'm very grateful here for this slide to Dr. Omar Najm from the UAE, who is leading fantastic work to secure the vaccine globally. It's a nightmare, actually. It's a nightmare when you think about the logistic. Even in the UK, I mean, that's why the UK will give the vaccine only in hospital setting, large hospital where they have actually facilities for low temperature storage. Not every hospital got it, not every place got it. It's unlikely to deliver to, say, nursing homes or indeed primary care bases. So it's all government actually facing this challenge. And rich countries may manage, and we heard about how they are modifying the airport, they're doing here, etc. I mean, we said we have these 8 technologies, but you need to think, even if all these vaccines are licensed, about 30% of the shipment require temperature minus 20, and that's a huge problem. Unlike, for example, AstraZeneca, I'm not promoting anyone. It could be kept at ordinary fresh temperature. So a lot of work is going in thinking about the reliability of these mechanism and logistic. Let me give you example on this. You see, to transfer, for example, from Belgium, where the vaccine now is produced, the AstraZeneca, the only vaccine which is licensed today under emergency license is the Pfizer vaccine. Sorry, so the transport the Pfizer vaccine from, say, Belgium to New York, an airplane like Boeing 777 can carry only 1 million doses. Imagine to distribute dosage, even all the vial available today to cover the 7 billion population of the world. We need 7,000 cargo jumbo, not jumbo, Boeing 777. Imagine, and none of the airline got such an airplane today. And in Britain, it was easy to transport this, although it was logistic nightmare, from Belgium to London by actually Eurostar, by train. They managed to prepare at a short notice, and this is only about 200 or 300,000 doses. So it shows you how difficult it is. And the other things, to transfer all this around the world, because 80% of the production we are projecting to happen is happening in Europe and in the United States. All right? So the 80% needs are away from United States and Europe. And that, again, another logistic nightmare, you know, because we need to think the customer is the entire globe. So these are the challenges from approval by a regulator, and we've seen even approval by the most meticulous regulator, which the MHA are in Britain, receive a criticism from at least Anthony Fauci, although he apologized. I was writing actually something criticizing him, and he apologized, and I pulled it out. So the product and the quality assurance, how do you know that this product is kept all the way through the journey at the temperature to make sure it will be, the protein of it is not damaged? Of course, supply shortages, the production, high volume production, all these are not happening because there is no way to produce millions and millions and millions of vials on a short notice. So the reason I mentioned this is that some governments start talking about possibly the mid of next year, all this hype and expectation, people raising a lot of expectation, and that should be calmed down, you know, that the current public health measure should continue. You know, we should continue to protect ourselves, even if the vaccine is the one which we want, all of us around the world, it's not available, and it will not be available at a short notice. I will not talk about all these things, but I think it's interesting that WHO and the security agencies, they warn about the theft and possible theft and of any supply during the routes. That's why it's really provided a huge security. And all these are, by the way, all these points mean something which is absolutely a high cost. That cost may go up to 10 times than the cost of the vaccine itself. Okay? So when you plan for this vaccine, you need to think about this cost, because I have a lot of meetings through WHO colleagues, you know, and countries talking about, oh, the vaccine costs $12, it will $6. No, you need to multiply it by 10 with all these logistic nightmare. And if you look at this, I mean, again, Omar produced this from factory, crowd transmission, airplane, this is all go through all these journey to reach the inoculation. And you have a problem here, because each vial comes with a dose for between 20 to 30 people. It depends on, say 20 on average, all right? You have to dilute it, you know, and you have to give it within X amount of second to the patient. Imagine you have 20 people sitting there, and you have to do it very quickly. The people who will give it tomorrow in the UK, in about 10 or 15 hospitals, they were trained all the way over the last three weeks. Doctors and nurses were fully trained to do it. By the way, you have to repeat it twice. And we said, you know, the reason why it's twice. Imagine the whole logistic have to mention twice. You know, I just put this one as a summary of the 5 important vaccine, although the forerunner is 4, but I did mention here on the right side the Chinese. But let's give you another indication in terms of the prices. We don't know how much the Chinese or the Russian cost, But we know Moderna 28, Sterling and Biotech about 15, and the Oxford one is about 3. No data, as Dr. Khalid said, on safety in the short term and long term. COVAX, the alliance, which is Gavi alliance with WHO, is now 186 countries signed, including European countries, including United Kingdom. I think United States did not sign. I may be wrong. I stand to be corrected. And this is guaranteed 20% of supply. COVAX expected that this supply could be in June, not before June. I mean, so far they did not have sufficient approval of vaccine except the Pfizer. Let me share this one with you, and this is showing that actually from the day you give the a new vaccine with 95% efficiency, going into various stages to generate immunity, to achieve herd immunity. To achieve herd immunity, you need to vaccinate up to 65% of the population, including children and pregnant women. But children and pregnant women are excluded from almost all these new vaccines because no clinical trial included these two age groups. And therefore, here, number 4, if you exclude that and look at the remaining of the population, to achieve herd immunity, you need to have 85% coverage. And that's the problem, you see. And the model here, assuming that we will only adult, but no children or maternal, that 85% is not simple, taking the percentage of vaccine hesitancy, taking the issue of logistic, taking issue of other things. Now, that raises 2 questions, which I'll just put it for discussion. Should we vaccinate the people who already actually developed, like Khalid's family, COVID? You know, it doesn't matter whether it is classic symptoms or the symptoms unlimited for COVID disease, okay? Or should we simply take antigen measurement and we say you are protected, this is a certificate? Should we use actually passive protection, other passive protection, monoclonal and many other things which we could use? The plasma proved to be not that effective, but it's an opportunity to explore other means until we are actually able to deliver a vaccine in circumstances which is different. Return to school, in the long term, certainly achieving high level of vaccination in the community, even without children, will benefit children, because while the transmission may be circulated among children, at least the adult will cause no harm to the children. And the children responses tend to be very good. So let us have that premises number 1. The second aspect, since they are excluded so far from the measures, which is i.e. vaccination, you know, we need to encourage children to continue with public health measures until the day that we have safe vaccine for the children. I personally will not push to this type of vaccine at the present time for children because we don't know the long-term consequences and the long-term safety. And this is not raising doubt about the vaccine, far from it. This is simply be cautious. The last things we endanger the next generation, you know, unless we are 100% sure. If you look at the history of vaccine for children from War I until today, I mean, the first vaccine was discovered like 1914, you know, we have many years of experience and modification. And I have no doubt this vaccine will modify it continuously until reach the stage in years to come and saying, look, this is a safe vaccine. Reaction which is happening today to the pandemic and the scientific discovery, these 8 new techniques are most welcome, because these are platforms which we could use in the future to address other diseases like cancer and some of the chronic diseases. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Salman. Now, Professor